How authentic value rewires your identity, your standards, and your entire relational world. Let me ask you something. When was the last time someone made you feel truly, deeply, undeniably, like you mattered? Not the polite nod across a table. Not the "I'm here for you" text that never arrives when it counts. Not the hollow "I love you" that sounds more like a habit than a heartbeat. I'm asking you about the real thing. The bone, deep certainty that someone sees you, all of you, and chooses to stay anyway. Because here's the brutal truth most people never say out loud. Most of us have never had that. Or worse, we've had a counterfeit version of it. We've held something in our hands that looked like being valued, felt its warmth for a moment, and then watched it dissolve the second we needed it most. You've been there. I know you have. The relationship where you gave everything and received explanation. The friendship where you showed up and they showed out. The partnership where your needs were inconveniences and your feelings were inconvenient weather. Something to be waited out, not understood. And the most dangerous part, you started to believe that was normal. You started shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never built for you. You started asking less, expecting less, becoming less, not because you were less, but because no one around you had the capacity to hold who you actually were. Here is the paradox that has quietly wrecked more lives than any addiction or disaster. We are wired for connection, yet most of us have been trained by experience, by disappointment, by survival, to accept connection's imitation. We accept the performance of care. We accept proximity without presence. We mistake intensity for intimacy and history for loyalty. We call it love when it keeps us small, because at least it's familiar. But today, right now, in this moment, I need you to understand something that could change the entire trajectory of your relationships, your self-worth, and your life. Being truly valued is not a luxury. It is a minimum requirement for a fully human existence. And the people who genuinely value you, they don't just feel it, they demonstrate it, consistently, quietly, powerfully. Not because they're perfect, but because you are a priority they've chosen again and again. This video is about those 6 demonstrations, not as a checklist, not as relationship advice, but as a standard you are going to internalize so deeply that you will never again confuse the real thing for its shadow. Let's begin. Before we get to the 6 things, before we name them, feel them, and claim them, we need to understand what is actually happening inside you when you are in the presence of someone who genuinely values your existence. Because this is not just emotional, this is neurological. Understand is secure attachment theory. In the 1960s and 70s, psychologist John Bowlby proposed something radical, that human beings don't just want close relationships. We are biologically wired to need them for healthy psychological function. His research, expanded by Mary Ainsworth, revealed that the quality of our earliest bonds literally shapes the architecture of our nervous systems. When we are consistently valued by another person, when we experience what researchers call a secure base, our brain regulates stress hormones differently. Cortisol drops. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of creativity, decision-making, and long-term thinking, becomes more active. In plain English, being genuinely valued doesn't just feel good. It makes you more of who you are. It expands your capacity to think, create, risk, and grow. Contrast that with what researchers call anxious or avoidant attachment patterns, formed when early caregivers were inconsistent, withholding, or absent. In those environments, the nervous system learns something devastating: people are unpredictable, so love must be earned, and safety is always conditional. That early learning doesn't stay in childhood. It follows you into every relationship of your adult life, whispering that you must perform to be loved. That silence means abandonment. That need makes you a burden. Psychological safety model, developed through research at Google and studied extensively by organizational psychologist Amy Edmondson. Her work showed that the single greatest predictor of high-performing teams wasn't talent, resources, or intelligence. It was whether members felt safe to be themselves without fear of punishment. The same principle governs intimate relationships. When someone truly values you, they create psychological safety. They make it safe for you to be wrong, to be uncertain, to change your mind, to express a need, to show up imperfect on a Tuesday morning. That safety is not weakness. That safety is the oxygen in which human potential breathes. Based relational mirroring, a principle drawn from developmental psychology and the work of Donald Winnicott. Winnicott wrote that healthy selfhood begins when a parent mirrors the child, when they reflect back, through attention and responsiveness, that the child exists and matters. Without this mirroring, a person grows up with a fragmented sense of self, forever searching in other people's eyes for the reflection that tells them they are real. When someone truly values you in adulthood, they become that mirror, not by telling you who you are, but by paying the kind of deep, attentive, consistent attention that allows you to see yourself more clearly. This is why being in the presence of someone who genuinely sees you feels like coming home to yourself. It is not a luxury. It is not romanticized fiction. It is the neurological, psychological, and relational truth of what it means to be a human being who is fully witnessed. And when someone values you, truly values you, these principles don't just describe what's happening. They describe why you change in that presence, why you grow, why you become more courageous, more open, more alive. Remember that? Because the 6 behaviors we're about to explore are not just acts of kindness. They are acts of transformation. Ever lived wrote this in his private journal, never intending it for publication. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But here is the part of Marcus Aurelius that people rarely discuss. Here is the part that is more dangerous than any battlefield. He commanded. He wrote those words as a reminder to himself, not as wisdom he had mastered, but as truth he kept forgetting, even as emperor, even surrounded by yes men, power, and abundance. Because the hardest frontier is not external. It never was. The hardest thing Marcus Aurelius and Viktor Frankl and Epictetus and every honest human being who has ever lived faced was the same thing you face, the decision to stop settling. Viktor Frankl survived the Holocaust. He lost his family. He lost his manuscript. He lost everything that the world says a person needs to feel valued and purposeful. And what did he conclude? That meaning is not given to us by circumstance. It is chosen. And the deepest form of human suffering is not pain. It is the unlived life. The life we didn't dare to inhabit because we were too afraid to demand what we actually deserved. Epictetus, born a slave, who became one of the most influential minds in Western history, said it with ruthless simplicity. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. And what is in your power right now? Your standards, the relationships you continue, the ones you release, the way you respond when someone treats you as optional, the voice inside you that says this is not enough. Whether you silence it with justification or let it guide you towards something real. Here is the cost no one fully calculates. Every year you spend in a relationship, romantic, platonic, professional, with someone who does not truly value you, is a year your nervous system spends in low-grade alarm, a year your creativity contracts, a year your identity slowly folds itself smaller to survive, a year you do not become who you could have become in the presence of someone who saw you. That is not dramatic. That is documented psychology. Researcher Shelley Gable at the University of California found that how a partner responds to your good news is actually a stronger predictor of relationship quality than how they respond to your bad news. When you share a victory and the other person deflects, minimizes, or ignores it, that small moment registers in your nervous system as a threat. Don't repeatedly over months and years. Those moments accumulate into a quiet, corrosive belief, I am not safe to be successful here. I am not safe to be myself here. And you shrink, and you call it love because you don't know what else to call it. The regret of the unlived life is real. It is the heaviest weight, heavier than failure, heavier than heartbreak, because failure and heartbreak, at least, are proof that you tried, that you stepped into the arena, took the risk, demanded the real. The unlived life is the one where you knew something was missing and kept quiet anyway. Stop keeping quiet. The 6 behaviors we are about to explore are not just signs to watch for in others. They are the standard you are going to hold yourself to as the person you choose to become in your relationships, and the minimum you will accept from those who claim to value you. These are the 6 things, not 6 wishes, not 6 ideals reserved for fairy tales and self-help fantasies. These are 6 behavioral patterns, observable, consistent, real, that define what genuine value looks like in action. Memorize them. Hold them like a torch, because once you have seen what real looks like, you cannot unsee it. Not every now and then, not when it's convenient, not after 3 unanswered texts and a cancelled plan. They create space for you in their lives, actively, proactively, repeatedly, because to them, being in your presence is not a task, it is a privilege. Here is the execution principle: watch the effort, not the explanation. Anyone can explain why they were too busy. People who value you find a way to be present despite the business, not perfectly, but consistently. They reach out first, they schedule, they show up. Time is the only resource that cannot be renewed. When someone gives it to you without being asked, they are giving you the only thing that cannot be replaced. If you have been waiting for someone to find time for you, hear me now: people find time for what they value. Always, without exception. There is a kind of listening that is really just waiting, nodding while you speak, eyes slightly unfocused, already composing the rebuttal or the redirect. Most of us have been inside that conversation and felt the loneliness of it, the hollow echo of speaking into a room where no one is truly present. And then there is the other kind, the kind where someone is fully there, where they follow the thread of what you're saying with their eyes, their energy, their whole attention, where they reflect back not just your words, but the feeling underneath them, where they ask a question that proves they heard not just what you said, but what you meant. This is the behavior that John Gottman, after decades of studying thousands of couples, called turning toward. It is the single most powerful predictor of relational longevity. People who value you turn toward your bids for connection, consistently. The daily practice: begin listening to respond less. When someone speaks to you, try 30 seconds of pure reception before your first word. Watch what you hear when you're not preparing your reply. You say no and they say okay. Not okay, but why? Not okay, followed by sulking silence. Not okay, with a scorecard quietly being updated behind their eyes. Just okay. Because to them, your boundaries are not obstacles to what they want. They are information about who you are, and they value who you are. People who need you to justify your limits are not actually interested in your well-being. They are interested in your compliance. These are not the same thing. When someone honors your no easily, they are demonstrating this: I value your wholeness more than my momentary comfort. That is love that has grown up. This is the Shelley Gable research made visible. People who genuinely value you respond to your victories with active, enthusiastic, specific engagement. Not, that's great, hun. Not a double tap on an Instagram post, but the kind of reaction that says, I have been watching you work toward this. I know what it cost you, and I am standing here in genuine joy for what you've achieved. They brag about you to others. They bring up your accomplishments unprompted. They champion your dreams with the same energy they'd invest in their own. This is not a small thing. This is one of the clearest windows into a person's love. Because small, insecure love cannot celebrate someone else's expansion without feeling threatened. But real love grows when you grow. Real love takes up more room when you do. Presence in good times is easy. Presence when it costs something. When they are tired, when they have their own pain, when showing up means sacrifice. That is the proof. The 3 a.m. phone call answered. The plans cancelled to be by your side. The honest conversation they chose to have, even though silence would have been easier. The apology that wasn't demanded. The extra mile taken when they had nothing left. This is what Viktor Frankl understood about meaning. It is revealed under pressure, not in comfort. Anyone can be kind when it costs them nothing. The people who value you are kind when it costs them something. Pay attention to how people behave when it is inconvenient to value you. That is when you see what is real. The people who truly value you are not just attached to the version of you they met. They are curious about the version of you that is still emerging. They ask questions about your current dreams, not just your history. They notice when you've changed and celebrate the evolution rather than mourning the familiar. They make you feel safe to grow because they are not loving an image of you. They are loving you. And you, like every living thing, are always in motion. This is what distinguishes genuine value from possession. Possession wants you to stay the same so you remain recognizable, controllable, safe. Real value wants you to become more of yourself and is excited to be there when you do. These are the 6, not once, not occasionally, consistently, imperfectly, humanly, but consistently. Now here is the discipline that changes everything. Begin being these 6 things, not to attract them, though you will, but because these behaviors, lived out daily, will reshape your identity. They will teach your nervous system what real love feels like. In your own hands, first, so that you can recognize it when it arrives in someone else's. Identity-based habits don't start with behavior. They start with a declaration. I am the kind of person who values people this deeply. I am the kind of person who deserves this in return. Say it until you believe it. Then say it until you live it. We've come a long way together in this conversation. We started with a question. When was the last time someone made you feel like you truly mattered? And we've traveled through neuroscience, philosophy, history, and hard truth to arrive at this moment. And now I want to speak directly to you again, not as a narrator, not as a teacher, as someone who believes with everything I am in what you are capable of. You deserve the 6 things, all of them, consistently, without having to beg for them, perform for them, or justify your worthiness. That is not arrogance. That is your birthright as a human being. And the work starts here, right now, with 3 specific commitments. Write this down. Say it aloud. Mean it. I am someone who values deeply and is deeply valued in return. I do not settle for the performance of love. I recognize genuine value in how I give it and in what I receive. I am building my life around authentic connection, and I release, with compassion, what cannot meet me here. Say that every morning for 30 days, not as a wish, as a statement of who you already are becoming. For the next 30 days, notice, not with judgment, with attention. Notice the people in your life who do the 6 things. Notice how you feel in their presence. And notice, with honesty, where those 6 things are absent. You don't have to make any dramatic decisions this month. You just have to see clearly, because clarity is where all transformation begins. Share this video with one person, someone you trust, someone who is also building a life defined by authentic connection. Tell them you're doing this work. Ask them to hold you to the standard. Accountability is not weakness. It is the ancient, proven practice of allowing another person's witness to make your commitments real. I want to leave you with a truth that I've carried a long time. The goal is not to be perfect, but to be relentless. Relentless in your standards, relentless in your growth, relentless in the radical belief that connection, real, deep, transformative connection, is not a fantasy. It is available to you. It is being built, right now, by every decision you make to value yourself and others with your whole heart. Marcus Aurelius didn't get it right every day. Viktor Frankl didn't survive the camps by never breaking. Epictetus didn't become a philosopher by never suffering. They became who they were by refusing to stay who they'd been. And that is exactly what you are doing right now. By watching this, by asking the question, by deciding that the unlived life is no longer the life you're willing to accept. If this video reached you today, if something in you stirred, recognized itself, or woke up, please share it. Not because the numbers matter, but because somewhere out there, someone you love is settling for a counterfeit version of connection and doesn't yet have the words for what they're missing. Give them the words and subscribe, not for the content, but because you've decided to be the kind of person who continues showing up for their own growth. This channel is here every single week to be a part of that journey. I'll see you in the next one. And until then, be someone's proof that real love exists.